Yeah, good morning to all the third year PharmD students. So this is Dr. Sunil Kumar. So let's continue our discussion uh, in diuretics. So in the last video, we have discussed about loop diuretics. So today, in this video, I would like to discuss about thiazide and related diuretics. At the outset, I would like to say that thiazide diuretics are also one of the most prominent diuretics. They are considered as weak diuretics and they are used as a first choice of drugs in hypertension. And also they are also used in diabetes insipidus in order to control excess urination. So that I will discuss. So contrary to their action, why they are used in diabetes insipidus, that will be discussed. Okay. So let me share a screen. I think this screen is visible to everyone. Let me enlarge it. Okay. So, thiazide and related diuretics. Thiazide and related diuretics. So, they were originally synthesized as carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. So, let me tell you, while classifying carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, acetazolamide, I mentioned in brief about their mechanism of action. So, carbonic anhydrase is an enzyme that is involved in the reabsorption of sodium bicarbonate. Please try to understand. So, it is involved in the reabsorption of sodium bicarbonate. Okay. So, bicarbonate will be reabsorbed along with sodium. Along with that, sodium will also be reabsorbed in the presence of carbonic anhydrase. And in cases like edema, hypertension, congestive heart failure, nephrotic syndrome, so where sodium absorption is also associated with water reabsorption, and that will result in edema or CHF. So hence we have to remove sodium out of our body. That's why we are blocking this enzyme carbonic anhydrase. We are inhibiting this enzyme carbonic anhydrase with drugs, especially acetazolamide, and thereby sodium bicarbonate will not be reabsorbed. So that is the mechanism of action. I will come to that with a detailed picture how these ions will be reabsorbed uh, and how this carbonic anhydrase enzyme play a key role in the reabsorption of sodium and bicarbonate. But here, let me tell you, so at first thiazides were synthesized as carbonic anhydrase. Before identifying their actual mechanism of action, they were first observed as inhibitors of carbonic anhydrase. Okay. So while some diuretics have carbonic anhydrase inhibitory activity, but the major site of action of these drugs is a distal tubule. Distal tubule is a major site of action. Got it? So let me show you. I think we have seen this picture. Yeah, this is the distal tubule, what we call it as a distal convoluted tubule. Okay, so this is the major site of action of thiazides. Thiazides and related diuretics, they are mainly act on this area, that is what we call it as distal convoluted tubule. Okay, so now let me continue the discussion. Yeah. So hydrochlorothiazide is the major drug which can be taken as a prototype and whose details can be discussed here. And along with hydrochlorothiazide, you have drugs, especially chlorthalidone, indapamide, metolazone. They are having long duration of action. They are long acting thiazide diuretics. Chlorthalidone, indapamide, and metolazone are long acting diuretics among other diuretics. And mechanism of action. So this you have to understand properly. I think this diagram is visible to everyone. So this is, I think, the simplest way to explain the mechanism of action. I told you, if you consider, suppose, let me tell you, if this is your distal convoluted tubule, for example, DCT, distal tubule, DT, okay, and here you can see that this is the cells, and here also you can see cells are available, and this empty space is called as lumen. Okay, and how sodium is reabsorbed. We can see here. So sodium as well as another ion, potassium. Sodium and potassium in distal convoluted tubule, it is reabsorbed in this fashion, like this. Okay, like this it is reabsorbed. Okay, first from lumen, sodium and potassium will enter into the cell. From cell, it will enter into the blood. The same thing has depicted here. So this is lumen. From lumen, ions will enter into this cell. From cell, the further the sodium and potassium will be reabsorbed in the blood. This is how the reabsorption is going on. And like how we discussed in loop diuretics, the apical membrane, the luminal membrane present on the epithelial cell of thick ascending limb of loop of Henle. So here, yeah, here you can see. So here I have shown you lumen, and here this is cell. Okay. In loop diuretics, there is a pump through which from lumen ions will enter into the epithelial cell. And what is that pump here, which has been shown in loop diuretics? That is sodium chloride potassium, or sodium potassium chloride co-transporter. Okay. In the same manner, here also you can see. So so from lumen, sodium and chloride, especially sodium, not potassium here, make a small correction. I would like to, this is chloride, sodium and chloride. Sodium and chloride will enter into this distal tubular cell, and from distal tubular cell, both sodium and chloride will be reabsorbed in the blood. Okay, here I have shown you blood. So this will be done with the help of a transport system, which we call it as co-transport or sim transport, because why we are calling it as symporter or co-transporter, because it carries both the ions in the same direction. Okay, you can see sodium is going in this direction, and also chloride is going in the same direction into the distal tubular cell from the lumen, and this is called as sodium chloride symporter. We call it as sodium chloride symporter. And with the help of sodium chloride symporter, around 10 to 15% of the sodium will be reabsorbed into the blood. Will be reabsorbed first into the distal tubular cell, then from distal tubular cell, it will be reabsorbed into the blood. So now what thiazide diuretics will do, they will block this symporter. You can see here. They will block this symporter, blocked by thiazides, blocked by thiazides. They will block this symporter. Sodium and chloride will not be reabsorbed, and when sodium and chloride will not be reabsorbed, definitely sodium and chloride, when it is not be able to enter into distal tubular cell, then when its entry into the distal tubular cell is blocked, definitely it won't reabsorb. It won't be reabsorbed. Sodium and chloride will not be available to undergo reabsorption. So this is how the thiazide diuretics will act. Let me repeat. Thiazide diuretics will act sodium and thiazide diuretics will prevent sodium and chloride reabsorption in distal convoluted tubule by inhibiting sodium chloride co-transporter, by inhibiting sodium chloride symporter, and thereby prevent the entry of sodium and chloride in the distal in the distal tubular cell. When sodium and chloride entry is blocked in the distal tubular cell, its reabsorption will be further inhibited. Its reabsorption can be prevented. So this is how thiazide diuretics are going to function. Okay, got it? Yeah. So here you can see. The distal tubular tubule is responsible for around 5 to 8% of the sodium that is filtered by the glomerulus and is reabsorbed within the nephron. Around 5 to 8, approximately 10%. So 5 to 8% or approximately 10% of sodium that is filtered from the Bowman's capsule or filtered through the Bowman's capsule, it is reabsorbed, especially in the DCT, distal convoluted tubule. And here, that uptake of sodium, how sodium will be reabsorbed, that is accompanied by a co-transport of sodium and chloride ion, that is called sodium chloride co-transporter. That is what I have shown you. So here, so this is called as sodium chloride co-transporter. Okay, and this co-transporter, further with the help of this co-transporter, sodium and chloride will enter into this distal tubular cell, and chloride will be reabsorbed by its own channel, and sodium will enter into the blood by a sodium potassium pump. There is a sodium potassium pump which will reabsorb sodium, and I meant to say that it pumps potassium. Okay, so this is how sodium is reabsorbed. Okay, this is an antiportal. Sodium will go into the blood, and along with that, potassium is coming into the lumen. So potassium will come into the tubular cell. Okay. So here that particular sodium and chloride entry into the distal tubular cell and further its reabsorption into the blood will be blocked by thiazides. You can see thiazides acts on the DCT and block sodium chloride co-transport system or symporter that is associated with the luminal membrane. Okay, and they do not have any action on thick ascending limb of loop of Henle. So they don't act on thick ascending loop of Henle. The only site of action for thiazide diuretics is distal convoluted tubule. They will act on distal convoluted tubule. They don't have any action on the thick ascending limb of loop of Henle. Okay, the major problem of thiazide diuretics is potassium loss. Potassium loss with these drugs is very significant. Okay, so potassium loss is very significant, and why there is a potassium loss, that is also you have to know. See, as I told you that potassium, water, H plus ion, okay, and even sometimes calcium, magnesium will also be lost. Okay, but potassium loss is very significant. That results in decreased potassium levels in the blood, and that might lead to hypokalemia. Hypokalemia. Okay, one of the major side effects of thiazide diuretics is hypokalemia. It causes decrease in potassium levels in the blood. Now the question is why there is a potassium loss. So let me show you a simple diagram in order to in order to explain why there is hypokalemia. Just a minute, I would like to share another screen here. Just a minute. Yeah, I think this screen is quite visible to everyone. See, the problem here is when here you can see minus sign indicates thiazides. When thiazide diuretics block sodium chloride symporter or co-transporter at the luminal membrane of distal convoluted tubule, what will happen? Sodium will not be reabsorbed. Okay, sodium will not be reabsorbed. When sodium is not reabsorbed, when sodium will not be reabsorbed, a large amount of sodium will travel, or that increased sodium load which is not reabsorbed, it is delivered to the terminal portion of the nephron. What is the last portion of the nephron? That is called as collecting duct. Okay, increased sodium load will reaches the collecting duct of the nephron. Okay, here you can see enhanced sodium delivery results in potassium loss in the collecting duct. More amount of sodium will enter into the collecting duct. Okay, up to this it is clear. You can ask me, sir, okay, when sodium reabsorption is prevented in distal convoluted tubule, okay, sodium will not be reabsorbed, it will come to the collecting duct. Okay, it will come to the collecting duct. That's fine. Then why? What is the connection here between sodium and potassium loss? Let me tell you. So this increased sodium load when it travels from distal convoluted tubule to the collecting duct because of inhibition of reabsorption of sodium by thiazide diuretics, by inhibiting sodium chloride co-transporter or symporter, that sodium load comes to the collecting duct, and due to this increased sodium load, what will happen in the collecting duct? Aldosterone will be stimulated. Aldosterone, which is sleeping, it gets activated due to this higher sodium load or increased sodium load. And you know what aldosterone will do? Aldosterone is a hormone whose major function is to reabsorb sodium and to throw potassium. You can see here. If you observe the figure carefully, sodium will be reabsorbed and potassium will be lost. Am I right? So that aldosterone starts, which is secreted from adrenal cortex. So that will start reabsorbing sodium and it will start releasing potassium into the lumen. Okay. So thereby sodium will be reabsorbed and potassium will be lost. Okay. As a result of that, there is a high loss of potassium. Large amount of potassium will be lost in exchange with sodium, especially in the collecting duct. When thiazides will block the sodium chloride co-transport, and when increased sodium load reaches the collecting duct, more sodium will be reabsorbed and potassium will be lost. Okay, and as a result, the patient suffers from hypokalemia. Hypokalemia. Okay, so now there is another doubt that arises in the mind. The doubt is, when sodium is reabsorbed in the collecting duct, then what is the use of using diuretics? Whether this enough diuretic action is attained. The major role of diuretic is to remove sodium and water. Okay, but let me tell you here, whatever the sodium that is reabsorbed, that is negligible. Okay, because this sodium that reaches the here, okay, that will be very high. Suppose, for example, the sodium load that reaches the collecting duct is very high. For example, 50 sodium molecules are reaching the collecting duct. Okay, and out of that 50 sodium molecules, if some 5 to 6 sodium molecules are reabsorbed, then that doesn't cause a problem, because 45 sodium molecules are ready to excrete it. That's why sodium excretion or diuretic effect will not be disturbed. But however, due to this 4 to 5 sodium molecules which are reabsorbed, in exchange with that, potassium will be lost. Okay, potassium will be lost. Am I right? And that potassium loss will be compensated. Sorry, the potassium loss will leads to hypokalemia. Is it clear? Okay. Already there is enough sodium in the blood. Please try to understand. Already there are enough sodium in the blood, and you are trying to remove sodium by diuretics. Okay, and you are blocking this sodium chloride co-transporter. Thereby, large amount of sodium which is not able to reabsorb in the distal convoluted tubule, they will reach the collecting duct. And in collecting duct, some amount of sodium will be reabsorbed. That does not affect diuresis, because the sodium load is very high here. But due to that slight absorption of sodium, potassium will be thrown out, because potassium levels are normal inside the blood. There should not be disturbance in potassium. Okay, so that potassium will be thrown out, and that will cause serious loss of potassium from the urine, and that will leads to hypokalemia. Okay, that's why, as I instructed, as I mentioned earlier, two things can be done. One, you can block aldosterone. You can block the action of aldosterone. Okay, or you can block the particular channel on the renal tubule or on the collecting duct, which is responsible for the absorption of sodium. That renal epithelial channel can be blocked. Second thing. Third thing, what you can do, you can give potassium supplements. Let the potassium go out, no problem. But you have to give potassium supplements to the patients, so that potassium levels will attain normal. Because potassium is very, very essential for many purposes. Even for insulin release, potassium is required. Even for relaxation of tissues, muscles, heart, brain, potassium is very, very essential. Even for neurotransmitter release, potassium plays a very, very important role. Okay, that's why potassium balance has to be maintained. Okay, so that is why there is hypokalemia with thiazide diuretics. Okay, so I will come back to our slide here. Yeah. Yeah. So potassium loss with these drugs is significant, as we discussed. So potassium, why does the potassium loss occurs? Just now I mentioned. So by inhibiting sodium chloride co-transporter in the distal convoluted tubule, sodium reabsorption will be blocked, and that sodium, large amount of sodium will come to the collecting duct, and there sodium will be reabsorbed, and in place of sodium, potassium will be excreted, and that will result in large amount of excretion of potassium. Okay, that will result in hypokalemia. And also here, excretion of uric acid, you can see here. Excretion of uric acid and sodium is decreased, and magnesium is increased. The same problem here with uric acid. Okay, so there is a Just a minute. There is slight disturbance. Just a minute. Yeah. Yeah, you can see here. See, excretion of uric acid and sodium is decreased and that of magnesium is increased. So there is a competition. So like loop diuretics, thiazides will also try to reach the site of action. They will also reach the site of action in the nephron by binding to the transport system with which diuretics used to bind. So that is organic acid transporter. Okay, and the same transporter is utilized by uric acid to go out of the kidney. Okay, to come out of the nephron. So that's why there is a competition between thiazides and uric acid, like what we discussed, similar to the loop diuretics and uric acid. Here also thiazides and uric acid will fight to bind with the same transporter for their journey or to reach the site of action. So thereby, thiazides will prevent the binding of uric acid with the transport system. That's why their excretion will be decreased. Okay, and that will result in gout. Even gout can be expected here. Okay, that may even result in gout. Okay, and magnesium is decreased. So magnesium excretion is decreased here. So please remember, their magnesium excretion is increased. Here magnesium excretion is, sorry, their magnesium, sorry, here also magnesium excretion is increased. Okay, their calcium and magnesium both are eliminated. Here magnesium is eliminated. Okay, and hypochloremic alkalosis. Okay, that is due to lack of chloride ion. So the blood pH becomes alkaline, and that will result in the formation of, that will result in increased, I mean to say that pH level of the blood, and that will result in severe electrolyte disturbances followed by vomiting, dehydration, muscular pain, and even the patient can enter into coma. Okay, and here thiazides enhance calcium reabsorption in the DCT by lowering the intracellular sodium by thiazide induced blockage of sodium entry. Okay, and enhances exchange of, sorry, and enhances sodium calcium exchange in the basolateral membrane. Okay, so there we have observed calcium and magnesium both are excreted along with loop diuretics. Sorry, yeah, along with loop diuretics, along with sodium, potassium as well as H plus ion. Okay, but here thiazides only increases magnesium excretion. Okay, but here sodium excretion will be decreased and sodium reabsorption will be increased. Please remember, thiazides will increase magnesium excretion, whereas calcium reabsorption will be increased by thiazide diuretics. Okay, and why that is happening? That is caused by lowering the intracellular sodium, lowering the intracellular sodium by thiazide induced blockade of sodium entry and enhance sodium calcium exchange in the basolateral membrane. Okay, so as intracellular sodium is not available, you can see here the mechanism. As intracellular sodium is not available, if sodium is not available, then definitely what will happen? Calcium and sodium, you know that what will happen when intracellular sodium, the main role of intracellular sodium is to undergo sodium calcium exchange. Am I right? So sodium will be, actually sodium will be thrown out. Okay, see the point is due to less amount of sodium, due to less amount of sodium inside. Okay, when less amount of intracellular sodium is available, then what will happen? Most of the sodium will uh, will uh, will be taken out, and instead of sodium, calcium will be reabsorbed. That is that pump which is responsible for sodium calcium exchange. It gets activated whenever there is a low intracellular availability of sodium. Okay, that's why you can see here clearly it has been given. So, lowering of intracellular sodium by thiazide induced blockade of sodium entry enhances sodium calcium exchange. Sodium calcium exchange will be increased. Am I Am I right? So, so suppose for example here, if this is your cell, so here you have sodium, Na plus, okay, and the concentration of sodium is very less. So what will happen here? There is a pump. Sorry, there is a pump which we call it as sodium calcium exchange, like this. Okay, so what it will do, it gets immediately activated and it will try to remove sodium and it will try to push calcium, whatever the calcium that is available outside, so that calcium will be pushed outside, sorry, will be pushed inside. Okay, and as a result, sodium will go out and calcium will enter into the cell, and as a result, calcium will be reabsorbed more. Calcium will be reabsorbed. Okay, in simple language, sodium calcium exchange will increase as a result of decreased intracellular availability of calcium. Sorry, intracellular availability of sodium. Okay, why there is a decreased intracellular availability of sodium here? Because the sodium entry into the cell will be blocked by thiazides by blocking sodium chloride cotransporter. That's why. So sodium calcium exchange gets activated and it exchanges sodium. Am I right? We try to, because let me tell you, the sodium actually it is an extracellular ion. Okay, but if sodium is available in sufficient quantity outside the cell, then this sodium calcium exchange will relax, it won't get activated. But this sodium calcium exchanger, okay, it will be activated only when there is less amount of sodium outside. Okay, and as well as here also. Okay, so sodium is pulled out. Okay, whatever the sodium that is available here, generally it will be pulled out. Okay, when sodium availability is very less outside, then definitely it will be pulled out here. Okay, and as a result of low intracellular availability of sodium, so that will allow the sodium to be pulled out, and in place of sodium, calcium will enter, and as a result, that calcium will be reabsorbed more, and that will result in hypercalcemia. That will result in excess calcium levels in the blood. Okay, and here this is another thing. Let me explain this. Thiazide diuretics have a paradoxical effect in diabetes insipidus, where they reduce urine volume. This is also very important. Thiazide diuretics has a paradoxical effect, has an opposite effect in diabetes insipidus, where they reduce urine volume. So what is happening here? See, it's very simple. Let me explain. See, first of all, diabetes insipidus is a condition where there is excess urination. Okay, because antidiuretic hormone, which is going to reabsorb water from the nephron, that antidiuretic hormone will not be secreted properly, which we call it as vasopressin. Okay, so due to the deficiency or improper functioning of antidiuretic hormone, so water reabsorption will not occur properly, and as a result there is a large amount of urine that is excreted. Okay, and here the concentration of urine is very diluted. Large amount of water can be seen in urine. Okay, now if you think, sir, already there is excess urination with diabetes insipidus, and when you give thiazide diuretics, they will also increase urination. They will also increase urine. Okay, then what is the use of using thiazide diuretics? That question comes to your mind. Okay, so let me explain in a simple manner. See, this paradoxical effect, I have mentioned here that thiazides will reduce urine volume, that I would like to explain here in a very simple manner. Generally, what happens when there is a deficiency of antidiuretic hormone, definitely there will be diabetes insipidus, large amount of urine will be excreted. That urine contains large amount of water and sodium levels in the urine will be less. Okay, only you find more amount of water, very diluted urine. So what thiazide diuretics will do? Thiazide diuretics will just add sodium to the urine. Okay, thiazide diuretics will block sodium chloride symporter or co-transporter, and they will add water and sodium. Here, please concentrate. They will add sodium to the urine. Okay, and as a result, earlier with diabetes insipidus, when the urine composition is made up of mainly water, if sodium you add to the water by blocking sodium chloride symporter, when by using thiazide diuretics, when you add sodium to the urine, so what will happen is urine becomes concentrated. That is one point. And another point here, as a result of deficiency of sodium, when you are trying to remove sodium, what will happen here? In order to balance sodium, in order to conserve sodium, I think you have heard about RAS, renin angiotensin aldosterone system. Okay, so this will be activated in case of in in cases where there is a severe sodium deficiency. Renin angiotensin system is going to be activated. So what we are doing in case of diabetes insipidus, there is excess urination and the composition of urine is mainly made up of water. So we are using thiazide diuretics. Thiazide diuretics will block sodium chloride symporter and they will deliver the sodium to the urine. More sodium comes to the urine and the urine becomes concentrated, and as a result of excess sodium loss, what will happen inside our body? Renin angiotensin system will be activated. That is what we require. And when renin angiotensin system is strongly activated, you know what will happen? So renin angiotensin system, okay, so where juxtaglomerular cells of the kidney will secrete renin. Renin will convert angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1 will be converted into angiotensin 2 by enzyme that is released by our lungs, that is ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme. Okay, and that angiotensin 2 will stimulate adrenal cortex. Okay, it will do a lot of work. Okay, it will cause decreased GFR, it will involve in reabsorption. That I am not discussing here. I will emphasize the point that renin angiotensin system will activate adrenal cortex, or renin angiotensin system will produce angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 will stimulate aldosterone. Aldosterone will immediately start reabsorbing salt and water. More amount of salt and water will be reabsorbed, and as a result of that, in diabetes insipidus, where you are finding excess urination, automatically due to the activation of renin angiotensin system by thiazide diuretics, by causing sodium loss. By causing sodium loss, they decrease sodium levels in the blood, and thereby this RAS will be activated, and aldosterone, angiotensin 2 will be formed, and finally aldosterone will be activated, and salt and water will be reabsorbed, and thereby there is there is a reduction of urine volume. Urine volume will decrease. Okay, that is the mechanism of action. That is how, even though thiazides will increase urine volume, but here it decreases urine volume because it activates renin angiotensin aldosterone system in diabetes insipidus by increasing the sodium delivery to the urine. Okay, and by decreasing sodium levels in the blood, they will activate renin angiotensin system, and where when renin angiotensin system gets activated, aldosterone will be released, and that aldosterone will reabsorb salt and water, and as a result of that, you have decreased urine volume in diabetes insipidus. Okay, so I will stop now. I hope the video was very informative. So this video I would also like to share with you in your class, so that you please go through the video, and in any case you find any doubts, okay, any doubts arises in your mind, so please ask me. Okay, thank you.